let me introduce you to Mr. Jesse Crawford. Let's give him a hand.
All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I am so glad to be here. I tell you, if you guys only knew, I always start off my talks with what I call a words of wisdom. And I share this with my team every week. And so I want to share with you guys because these words will hopefully inspire and motivate you and be a blessing as they, not only as they are to me, but to you as well as you continue with the week. So the first one is from a gentleman named Hannibal, who was a great general. And you may know him from history. He crossed the Alps with elephants, of all things. Okay. And so he had a statement that said, I will either find a way or make one. And that right there says it all. I mean, this man crossed the Alps, so I don't want to spoil it for you. The story is awesome. The last quote I'll leave for you, I give you 2 for 1, is remember that not getting what you want is sometimes a wonderful stroke of luck. Okay, that came from the Dalai Lama. So hopefully these words of wisdom will inspire and motivate you again. And as it relates to contracting and sourcing, I can weave that in there. Sometimes not getting that contract is a stroke of luck because it will prepare you for the next opportunity. Maybe it wasn't your time. No doesn't mean never. So with that, let's get going on the presentation, if you would, Monte. All right. So today I want to thank again Mr. Jackson and the rest of the great Arlington Black Chamber for this opportunity to present to you in the membership. Next slide. What I'm going to do today is give you an overview of my department, because as he mentioned in my bio, I am new to Dallas County, but not new to supplier diversity. So this slide right here shows you my team. We're very small, but we're powerful. I currently have my administrative assistant, Mr. Francisco Pena Perales. And then, as you can see, I have an SBA outreach officer named Lasagna Allen. I'm sure most of you have worked with her over the years here at Dallas County. And then I also have a vacant outreach officer position, and I have a vacant compliance officer role, which is currently posted on our jobs site. So for those who have a background or know someone with a background in compliance, I'm looking for a dynamic candidate to bring to my team. And then I have a program specialist named Rosa Rodriguez who works for me as well. And so this is the SBE department. Next slide, please. So as an overview, and again, I know you can see it here on the screen, but I want to touch on a few points here. First and foremost, the mission of the SBE office is to create a level playing field from which small businesses can compete fairly. And that's pretty short and sweet. But as you can unpack that, there's a lot that goes into ensuring that there's a equitable and a fair opportunity for those contracts. And our goal is to utilize small businesses throughout our supply chain and all of our purchasing. And we want to also increase the number of competitively awarded contracts to small businesses. That's something that's near and dear to my heart, because I want wins. I want contracts versus just participation. Also, I promote daily through all of my exchanges, both internally and externally through our outreach initiatives, such as we want to ensure non-discrimination as well in the awards and the administration of our contracts and procurement processes. And so our primary function as a team is none of the less to be a liaison, if you will. We would be one of your first points of contact and available to assist you as you matriculate through Dallas County, because as you know, it's a pretty large operation with many entry points, but our office are here to advocate and assist. We provide education, training, as well as awareness, both internally and externally, in what I call in-reach and outreach activities. And then we also promote SB certification, and I'll touch on that in the other parts of our presentation here today on what it means to be a supplier to Dallas County, but also what that process looks like. And then we, again, have the support of not only our commissioners, and that's important to note because it starts at the top. Any successful program for supplier diversity has to have the executive or the top leadership support to ensure that it's successful. And so we have that from our commissioners. And then we also have support of our purchasing department. We have a small business advocacy council that is made up of members of the community who assist us with feedback and identifying the needs of the business community. And then we have certification advocacy partners, and I'll touch on that in the program as well. And then finally, you, the business community. Next slide, please. So as I touched on, how to be recognized as a SB by the county. First and foremost, you must be certified. And we have 3 recognized certified: Dallas-Fort Worth Minority Supplier Development Council, led by Ms. Margot Posey. We also have the NCTRCA. You can say that 3 times fast if you can. The North Central Texas Regional Certification Agency. And we have Mr. Sherman Powers on today, and I'm glad he joined us. And then we also, and I believe Andrew Nash is on as well from the DFW Council. And then last but not least, we recognize the Women's Business Council Southwest, which is led by Ms. Bliss Kutler. And so she's brand new. If you remember, Debbie Hirsch was the president. She just recently retired. So those 3 recognized agencies provide all of the certification for SBE for Dallas County. And you must have a local presence in what is known as our MSA, or Metropolitan Statistical Area. And that consists of Dallas, Tarrant, Denton, and Collin counties. Next slide, please. And so this slide in particular, I want to note, which is very critical for what we do here, because we have a compliance tracking system that is known throughout the industry as B2G Now. And so we're not alone. There's several, it's a magnitude of agencies and entities who utilize B2G for all their compliance tracking and reporting. And so the gist here is that it is for electronic payment reporting. So when our primes sign a contract and commit to utilizing SBEs, they have to enter those payments into this particular system for those subcontractors. And then in the reverse, the subcontractors have to verify that they were indeed paid by the primes. And so we use that to track compliance and ensure that they are truly being utilized in the manner in which they were assigned per the contract terms. Next slide. And so now I'm going to get into our purchasing department. I'm going to share an overview of this group, which is led by a gentleman named Michael Frosch. And so their mission, and I thought it would be important to share here for those that are unfamiliar with Dallas County. Their mission is to procure goods and services in a manner that promotes business opportunities, inclusion, competition, and transparency to efficiently meet the client needs while adhering with statutory requirements. And we want to underscore and highlight statutory requirements, and I'll touch on that a little later. So next slide, the question you may have is, what does Dallas County procure? And again, it runs the gamut. We're no different from the other entities here in the Metroplex. We have professional services, we have goods and services, and then we have construction. And so as you can see there, it's listed. I won't go through each one, but we're no different than the other entities who need those goods and services in order to conduct business and meet the needs of the community. Next slide. This particular slide is very important because if you're like me and you've either worked for the private sector or government, or you were an entrepreneur like you are today, who has matriculated across both entities and both sides of the fence, if you will, there's a big difference. And I'm preaching to the choir for those who know, but I wanted to share some differences. So when you look at state, federal statutes that govern the processes for spending, in the private sector, they don't have those marching orders, but government does in every case. When you look at relationships that can provide an advantage, and I know the majority of you see the value in building relationships, networking, so on and so forth, that's critical in the private sector side. But I can assure you that on the government side, you have to be very careful about that word relationships, because we run fair and equitable processes, and we don't want to give any appearances that we're showing favoritism or anything to that nature with the supplier. So we're governed by that, and that's law. Okay, so that's not a wish list. That's law. Okay. Payment terms, of course, in the private sector, they're very negotiable on those, but when it comes to the government, it's net 30. Okay. And when it comes to, and I touched on it with relationships, oftentimes suppliers, and I've worked on both sides, so I understand they will offer you gifts, tickets to events. They'll say, hey, let's go grab some lunch, let's go grab a cup of coffee. That sounds very innocent. And in the private sector side, those were things that naturally occurred in business interactions. But I can assure you, with the government, we are mandated, we have anti-lobbying rules. And so you should never lead with that when you're trying to reach out to someone with the county that, hey, let's go grab some lunch. Let me take you out for coffee. You shouldn't, that's a big no-no. Okay. And then lastly, all communications, submittals, and contracts are open to the public. In the private sector side, I remember we would run bids and everyone would submit their information, and it was generally only seen by us on that private entity side. Government's a little different because of the Freedom of Information Act. So that is a major plus, because now you can see what the other bidders are submitting. You can understand, where there's differences and maybe use that information to your advantage. So that is a major plus on the government side for you as a bidder. Next slide. So this slide just basically covers how we procure our goods and services, and what type of vehicles we use. So I won't read it, but I'll scan over it and say, for informal solicitation, which falls under less than 50K, we will award it to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. If it's over greater than 50K, we have what is known as an IFB, or an invitation for bid, which is a formal solicitation. And that is awarded again to the lowest responsive or responsible bidder. Then when you get into RFPs and RFQs, in the case of the RFP, it is awarded to the highest ranked proposer, whereas the RFQ is awarded to the most qualified respondent. So both of those have published evaluation criteria, and I'll touch on that again in the presentation in a few slides. Next, please. So this particular slide is just really touching on the fact that proposals are utilized when there's more than one solution that we're trying to go after, or when the agency has a problem or a need, and we're requesting solutions from the industry, if you will. Those proposals are traditionally reviewed and evaluated by a team of subject matter experts who are on that evaluation team. And the process requires that the team only consider information provided in writing and during those interviews that we sanction. So some of the best practices that I would encourage is that you be clear and concise with your responses, and provide definitive information to solve a particular issue that we may have, highlighting your experience as well as your team. We want you to talk about your team's expertise. So you should really, you shouldn't hold back. If you have some of the best and brightest minds in the industry, by all means, leverage that. What separates you from the pack? What makes you, what's your differentiator? That's really what you should highlight and underscore. The next point I'm going to make is very clear to you, and I wish you could see it on the screen there. It says, do not expect to have another opportunity. And the reason why I added that here was because we recently had a debrief with a vendor, and they stated that they had provided their initial pricing and their solution, but they were anticipating that they were going to have another opportunity to review their pricing, and in other words, a best and final. And unfortunately for them, they were not going to have that opportunity. So give us your best. Don't expect and don't anticipate that you can just tease and toss something out there and maybe have another opportunity at bat. You really need to give us your best and final, and include all of that information in that proposal. Leave nothing to the imagination or otherwise. A couple of things to consider is, your floor. Be competitive. If you're not priced competitively, you should know why. And contrary to what people say out there on the streets, the government seldom overpays. So don't expect us to buy $200 hammers. That just doesn't happen. Okay. And only you can determine if those margins are beneficial to your business. So know your ceiling, know your floor. And then, the rest of that slide in particular speaks to term contracts that we have, which are oftentimes multiple year contracts. And, we prefer long-term agreements. So understand. And then lastly, the last bullet says, understand insurance bonding. If you have not established a relationship with a surety company, you definitely should. So things to consider, know your market, know your competition. If there's 5 key players in a chosen commodity or service stream, know where you're ranked. Are you number 1? Are you in the top 10? You should know your competition and know that market. Another thing I would strongly consider is that cash flow financing. Some of the contracts that we have on the county side can strain your finances, or exceed your capitalization. So we encourage you, to make sure you have good positive cash flow and financing. All business, you've heard this term, all business is not good business, but within reason, we want you to make sure that you're sure. And then attend pre-bid meetings. This is critical because, again, on the public sector side, you can meet your competition, you can create business and subcontracting relationships and opportunities. So we encourage you to come out and support those pre-bid events and meetings. And then get in the game. It's a new day at Dallas County. We're open for business. We actually have a policy that encourage primes to utilize SBEs for subcontracting. So, what better way to get your foot in the door than to subcontract with primes who are going to be held to their feet are going to be held to the fire as it relates to compliance. And, if you need to partner, if you need to create joint ventures, if you lack that financial strength or the ability to handle volume and scale, capacity, you'd probably be more successful, including a partner or a JV, if you will, and pursuing those subcontracting opportunities as well. Now, one of the things I also want to touch on is that our RFPs and RFQs, the prime is awarded up to 15 points when they submit their proposal or bids with SBEs for certified subcontracting. So those 15 points are going to be critical, and I'll touch on that a little later. This next slide, if you will, Montez, has bidding opportunities on it, and we ask that you visit our Dallas County Purchasing Department website to review and respond to active solicitation. So if you have not registered, the system is called BidSync, 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 and you can go there and register your company so that you can receive those active solicitations, as well as register your business. And then lastly, I have 2 slides that have forecasted projects that are currently teed up, for April. And one also goes out to June, one of the last ones. So I won't go through each one of those, but this will be included in the presentation, which we will share with you. And you can also visit our website on dallascounty.org. You can go out to the SBE site, as well as our purchasing department site to see what is forecasted out there. So with that, I show it's 11:32. I want to open it up for questions, and again, I'm glad to be here for you. So let's take advantage of this opportunity.
Okay, so thank you so much for that briefing. Greatly appreciate it. So if you could please, if you have a question, you can go down to your lower right-hand corner for reactions and hit the raise hand button. That will bring you to the top of my screen so I can make sure that I recognize you as having a question. Are there any questions? Okay, Chantel Brown, go ahead. You're up first. Unmute yourself.
Hi. Thank you so much for your taking to give us this tidbit of information. I had a question on if there is not a bid out there, how can we market to the county for a service that it may not be a bid for, but could be an essential product to the city?
That's a great question, Ms. Brown. Unlike the private sector side where you can come over and meet with them and do what are basically an unsolicited bid proposal, right? At the county,
Correct.
we're driven by our RFP process is driven by a need. Okay. But as far as marketing your business or networking, that's where my office, we have several outreach initiatives that we conduct. We do town halls. We also support all of the councils through their outreach activities and events. And we usually bring someone from our purchasing department to support that as well. But as far as reaching out directly to the county, you can either come through my office, and I mentioned Lasagna Allen is my outreach officer. And so she fields calls daily, along with Frank and Rosa of my team. Rosa mostly supports our internal purchasing team for RFPs and RFQs. But between Frank and Lasagna, we respond to those emails, and then it really is really dependent upon a need. So you bringing that awareness to us of what your services are gives us a chance to have that information available when there is a bid opportunity. But I also encourage you to go register in the BidSeek system because first and foremost, we want to see you. That's visibility. And that's where we're going to go when those bid opportunities are available. So I would encourage you to do two things: register your business with us through BidSync, and then also feel free to reach out to our department. And if you have a compelling business product or service, we will then make that determination. We'll tee you a meeting up with purchasing, or I can even pass you over to purchasing after I've met with you,
Okay.
and have you meet with the director there.
Okay, and I can just reach out to your office, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. And
Any other questions?
yeah, I see a question in the chat. Is it Bid Sync? And yes, it is BIDSYNC.
Yes, and there's no space on BidSync. It's all one word. The way they market it and name the company, BidSync.
Okay, and I want to get this on the recording, Mr. Crawford. Some of the places where we go and register our business, not necessarily BidSync, but I've seen some others. There's a free sign up, and then they market a upper level and another upper level. So BidSync, is that free?
Yes, sir. There's no charge to you to register your company with Dallas County.
Okay, good. Wanted to make sure we got that on recording. No, I'm just joking with you. All right, any other questions?
Yeah, and only caveat to that is there may be, and I'm going back to your scenario, a chance to upgrade for that particular version. So you may have that opportunity, but there's no charge to register with the county. That just may be an opportunity that BidSync is offering you to get some additional benefits and functionality out of their piece. But we're very clear on what we purchase and how we utilize BidSync for our purchasing process.
Absolutely.
Does that answer?
Okay. Absolutely. So keep in mind, folks, that it is free to register, but they may market it, not Dallas County marketing it. It's BidSync and how they tier their product. Okay. So keep that in mind. So if they say you have to upgrade in order to get these solicitations from Dallas County, then somebody's trying to scam you. Okay.
Well, it's no different. It's no different than LinkedIn. You can set up a profile for free, right? But if you want to really get in there and drive and get some additional functionality, they offer those services.
Yep.
So, yeah. All right.
This is Sheree. I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay,
Hello,
so
Sheree.
for BidSync, we're having good success. It allows you to track if you're interested in a project, even if you're not sure if you can compete on it. and then you can select that you'd like to be considered as a sub. And that's really great because if you're small business certified, then those primes who aren't small business certified may be looking to partner with you. So even if you see opportunities and you think I may not be of capacity to compete on that full opportunity, it's great to follow those and to check that you're interested in as a sub. And I think Jesse, you had mentioned talking more about that 15 points on SBE.
Yes, good. Thanks for that lob, as they call it in basketball. Yeah, so in our evaluation process, and there, I didn't want to give you guys death by PowerPoint, so let me confirm that. So I did remove a few slides because who wants to go to an event and have 50 slides, right? But the piece that I want to touch on was the evaluation. And so we SBE have 15 points that are allocated towards that proposal. So that 15 points depends on your utilization or your good faith effort plan and how you're going to utilize subs. In the case of certified subs, you get points if they are certified, and that's very important for you to know because some of you may be MBE certified but not SBE certified. And so our certification partners, all three of them, certified SBEs. Okay. And so I know Mr. Sherman Powers is on here, representing NCTRCA, but that they certify all three there. SBEs are small business enterprises. So with that, our evaluation gives the bidder 15 points total if they submit a subcontracting plan, utilization plan accurately. And it's based on how much they're willing to. So if you give me 1%, we're gonna evaluate you and assign you a point there. Do you guys follow that point system? The more you give, the more you give to the subcontractor, the better it is for you as a proposal. Okay. And so with that, I wanted to make sure it was clear because some primes will come to Dallas County and they are leaving points on the table. My evaluation committee has 0 points assigned to them because they didn't submit an SBE subcontracting plan. Okay. Primes don't understand it's a competitive advantage. And that's why I call them and I have conversations and I say, you do realize that you left 15 points on the table. And granted, if I have another bidder and all things are considered equal, services, scale, scope, their footprint, all of those things that we look at as far as requirements. But they submit a subcontracting plan and you do not, we're talking, you may have a score of 85 and the other bidder has a score of 100. Why leave points? And that's just one example. We evaluate so many bids, but I try to encourage our primes to really take advantage of that competitive advantage of utilizing small, minority, women-owned, veteran-owned businesses. So thank you for that, Cherie. That's exactly what I wanted to cover, was that this program has an evaluation component to it. So it's not a feel good, even though that word good faith effort is utilized, there's some meat around it and teeth involved. Those are my words. Next question.
So also, Mr. Crawford, so you just said veteran-owned business. So are you looking for certified veteran-owned businesses, or some people are self-identified veteran-owned businesses?
Love the question, Montez. So our program is SBE, okay? So I can only count and track small business enterprise certified companies in my tracking and reporting. But that doesn't prevent minorities, women, veterans from participating and even winning business with Dallas County. So I want to be clear on that. You have to have that certification in order for me to track that spend towards my program goals. But yes, we work with everybody. I encourage it. I'm an advocate I'm a true diverse supplier advocate. So I understand the value that these suppliers bring to not only our supply chain, but even the community, where you're creating jobs, you're impacting the tax bases. I get it. And that's why, and I have the support of our commissioners who understand Dallas County is a very diverse county, as you know. We represent everyone who takes advantage of our services, who provide, they pay taxes. So yes, we want to work with any and all, but you have to be SBE certified in order for me to track that stuff.
Okay. And another question came up. So
Any
some,
other questions?
yeah, well, some organizations have a small budgets where they don't have to solicit an RFP or RFQ to spend the money. So, do your organization in Dallas County have a small budget spend where they don't have to put it out?
And so what you were referencing was under, you were saying really small, so even smaller than under 50K is what you're touching on, correct?
Absolutely. It may not be a big.
I think you're on mute, Montez.
No, I should be back. Okay. So,
Okay, I can hear you.
yeah. For instance, for me, someone may want team building, and it's under 50K. It may even be 5,000. They can spend it on their, for me, government purchase card type thing. So do your organizations have that type of spend?
Yes, anything that is an informal solicitation that's under 50K, those departments can come to us and have that leverage to utilize, to go out into the market, if you will, and have opportunities for those types. They do have those budgets, but keep in mind we are federal. Uh, we have federal statutory requirements, and so every cent that we spend is accounted for and approved. So just keep that in mind. It's not a free for all. Everyone has to account for every penny they spend. I assure you, that's not an exaggeration.
Absolutely. Okay, so if someone else has another question, please raise your hand so you can come to the top of my screen. Miss Gray asked, please define the geographic areas again.
Sure. So Ms. Gray, the geographical or metropolitan statistical area for Dallas County consists of 4 counties: Dallas, Tarrant, Denton, and Collin County. So those are the 4: Dallas, Tarrant, Denton, and Collin County.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Jackson. Good to see you.
Yes, how's everyone? I apologize for my late arrival. My question, Mr. Crawford, comes from we've had several instances in the past where companies have gotten their bids in on time and were the only bidder. Would you just award that bid, or would you put it back out to get a more competitive bid for Dallas County?
That is a very good question, and we've done that before, where we've gone back out for bid. It really depends on that commodity or that service that we're trying to procure. But yeah, we have done that before, Mr. Jackson, where it has either been awarded to that one bidder, or the business, in this case, elects to go back out.
So are you bound by always utilizing the lowest bidder, or do you ever utilize the strategy of best value?
We've done both. I've seen both since I've been here, where we go out for the lowest bidder, the lowest price. But we also go for best value. And again, it depends on the particular commodity, service, or product that we're trying to procure and the need for the county.
And the rationale for that question is that we've actually had prime contractors zero out like their administrative fees or drive down their bid in very creative ways so they can win the bid, and then they hit you with cost overruns and charges later.
Yeah, and I can assure you that if Mr. Frosch was here, who is our purchasing director, he would really tell you that we evaluate and closely scrutinize those particular scenarios that you just touched on, because we want to provide the best value to the county. Again, we're looking at being good stewards over the tax money that we collect, And so any and all purchases are definitely evaluated for best value, but more importantly, there may be times where paying a higher cost based on that commodity and their evaluation purposes. And that, when I say they, I'm talking purchasing as well as the internal client. That comes into play as well. So
And
I
last
hope I
question.
answered your question. Yeah,
Oh, yes, you did. And last question. Dallas County used to have a do not rehire list, and that's not a positive thing. But can you give us some insight on that? I mean, for people, for the lowest common denominator, for companies that don't finish work or get a bad reputation with the county, they used to put out a do not rehire list. And is that still being maintained by the county?
I forgive me for smiling on that. I understand how serious that is. I'm not aware that I've only been here since September. I'm not aware that, more importantly, that sounds like a question for our human resource department. So that's a little bit outside of my scope as far as a rehire list, but I'm not aware of anything like that. And I would leave it up to the HR department.
Well,
to
I'm
respond.
talking more from a contractor perspective.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and again, I would have to defer to my purchasing counterpart
okay,
regarding that because I'm representing SBE and I haven't seen anything to that degree. So I would defer to purchasing as well as our legal counsel for that regarding the do not rehire if there's been issues with respect to performance or even contract compliance.
okay.
I'll take that, but I'll take that down. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Please, if you could, raise your hand so you'll come to the front of my screen.
I'm looking on the chat room also.
Okay.
There was one question from Mr. Guy Holloman. He said, please discuss opportunities to network with other SBEs. Did you see that?
Oh, yes, I see that now.
Uh-huh.
So there's a lot of networking opportunities in Dallas, Fort Worth, Dallas, Arlington, and Fort Worth. So I'll put one out there right now. The Arlington Black Chamber of Commerce is having their general meeting March 31st at People's Lounge. That's one way you can network with other SBEs. Mr. Crawford put out there to the pre-bid meetings. Pre-bid meetings are very important. Like I said, for one, they want to see your smiling face in the place, especially if it's open. But also think about this. And I believe Miss Gordon said it. If you're not able to have the entire contract, then the primes usually go to those meetings and look for subs and SBE. So you can meet somebody there, network with them, and see if you can be a sub in that particular contract. Lastly, I'll say this: the majority of prime contractors that I met started out as subs. You got to start somewhere.
That's
So
right.
all they did was go to the pre-bid meetings, and I'll say it was BC before COVID. Before COVID, they had plenty of pre-bid face-to-face meetings, and if you were in those pre-bid meetings, then you would probably meet somebody that was a prime contract. So now it's more on Zoom, Teams, or some type of those type of things. But if they do have a face-to-face pre-bid meeting, try your best to make it out there because you will get, for one, you'll get your questions answered. Two, for the person that asked, what if you don't have a RFP or RFQ for something that I do? Well, you get to meet some of the purchasing agents. And sometimes purchasing agents don't know what they need until they know what they need. You'll get that once we get off.
No, that's some sage advice there, and I just want to underscore and highlight that you take advantage of those networking opportunities through those partners that I mentioned as well. Arlington Black Chamber is one. But we also mentioned the NCTRCA, the Dallas-Fort Worth Minority Supplier Development Council, and the Women's Business Council. They have a lot of content, all of you guys. I mean, the job that Mr. Jackson does is exemplary, and I've worked with numerous chambers around the country, not just here in our metroplex. But you should definitely take advantage of that because, like I said, no doesn't mean never. You know, and there may not be an immediate opportunity, but you can position yourself and plant some seeds there that will come to fruition. I think Mr. Jackson has his hand up for
He does, and I will recognize him here in a second. And also, Dallas ISD is on with Miss Stephanie Broughton. So they have a lot of networking opportunities also if you want to do business with Dallas ISD. Keep in mind, it's not just dealing with kids. They have a lot of teachers, administrators, et cetera, et cetera. So think about that. Go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Jesse, with Dallas County as SBE director, do you get involved with like disaster relief or emergency purchases that happen? Does your office like monitor the supplier diversity piece of that?
You know, we have some connectivity to your point because as a leader, as a department head here at the county, yes, anytime there's a natural disaster, we get the alerts and all of those efforts work in concert to ensure that we have the resources and the services and products that we need. So yes, I am involved to a point on that because we work in conjunction with the other entities such as FEMA and those other governmental agencies. So depending on who initiates it, we have co-ops and things of that nature that we engage with to leverage scale and obviously get those products and services in a timely manner. You may not have the luxury of going out for RP, obviously, if you're in an emergency, correct? So we want to leverage those other contracts that are out there to get those goods and services in order to meet the needs. So yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So if there are no more questions, please give a hand. Appreciate it. Everybody give my hand.
Thank you.
Good job. Once again, I will underscore the net 30 for Dallas County like we do with all of our other purchasing folks. That means you got to have a bank, y'all. You got to have a banking relationship. All right. When I did my contract with Fort Hood, people had to get paid. Might have to get a loan for them. You never know. So think about that. Mr. Jackson, and do you have any comments for us?
No, not particularly. Just just over here catching all kinds of heat. But for the most part, I want to sincerely thank Mr. Crawford. He came and made a presence yesterday, as well as doing this virtual outreach event today. So he's to be commended for that. And I've been on him like multiple times a day. So I want to thank him for his patience and his leadership. So
I just want to thank you. Thank you on behalf of Dallas County and my team. We exist because of the need to drive inclusion, and Dallas County recognizes the value of that small business inclusion and participation. So again, I thank you for this opportunity to serve the community here, especially in Arlington. And again, Mr. Powers and the rest of the folks who are representing not only the certification agencies, but any groups that are out there doing the good work, God's work out there. I want to thank you as well.
Okay. Ms. Brown, do you have to be registered in sam.gov in order to do business with the city? And I think I can answer that one. No. SAM is federal. So
That's
SAM
right.
is federal government, not necessarily city government. For Dallas County, the bid sync. Okay. So
That's correct.
bid sync. Now, if you want to do business with the federal government, that's sam.gov. Okay. So everyone, thank you so much for joining the Arlington Black Chamber of Commerce for this Lunch and Learn. Keep in mind that we'll have our general meeting on March 31st at Tucci starting at 6 o'clock. There is a registration for that. It's not a registration fee. We just want you to register. And it will be our general meeting. At that meeting, you will be able to do your 30-second or sometimes 15-second commercial. It just depends on how many people we have. Then also you'll be able to network. And that's one thing that we look for business to do. We know about relationships. We want you to have relationships. Keep this in mind before we leave. The bigger your dream, the bigger your team. If your dream is large, you're going to need a large team. If you don't know how to have a relationship with folks, if you don't know how to come on Zoom and smile at us, then guess what? People might not want to do business with you. But I'm telling you, the relationships matter. You've heard it over and over again. Your net worth is equal to your network. And that's not a saying, that is real. So think about what your network is like. Remember, we're on the net right now. We're on the internet and we're working. So this is part of networking. And then when you shake hands and you kiss babies, that's part of networking also. But sometimes you got to kiss some ugly babies. So think about the things that you don't know. And right now, I know I don't know everything. I'll tell you this, Mr. Crawford, and thank you so much for explaining the difference between an RFP and an RFQ and explaining it in a way where I learned something today. So I greatly appreciate that from you. Okay?
Appreciate you.
All right.
Thank you for the feedback.
So everyone, be safe today. Make sure you do something nice, do something good for somebody today. That helps you in a way that nothing else. Doing business, nothing else helps but doing something good for somebody today. So thank you so much for joining us. Once again, I'm Montez Jones, the owner of Tez Jones Training Solutions, and I hope to see you around sometime soon. All right. Have a great day.
Take care.
Thank you.